Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Chris with the C. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you very much for joining me today. Guys, on the table we have my SST, as you can see. This truck, to be honest with you, has been on a bit of a journey for me and a good friend, and I'll mention that good friend in a second. Now, as you can probably tell by the thumbnail, we have got the final piece of the puzzle for this truck to basically fortify it, to make it nice and strong and tough. And I want to take you along with the ride, and on top of which we're going to do it in two parts. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to be, one, fortifying the vehicle and make it as strong as I possibly can. Two, I want to do a little bit of maintenance because we have got an event coming up May the 11th in Heatherton World in Tenby. Now, this truck, one of the downsides to maybe bashing it is probably the chassis. Now, as you know, I did kind of compensate for that by adding some Cogan billet chassis braces. Now, my good friend Robbie from Tenby RC has supported me all the way through this journey. And the funny thing is, he's done exactly the same thing. He's like, me and him both had our cars at the same time. And it was a case of we've gone through each upgrade systematically, bit by bit, at the same time. And what he's actually done for me, bless him, is he's actually purchased the final piece of the puzzle for me. So massive shout out to you, Robbie, if you're watching the video. I really do appreciate it. Guys, we're going to be fitting the part number HOP0029, which, if anyone in the Hobao world might want to know, or anyone who isn't in the Hobao world, this is the 7075 T6 aluminium or aluminum for my American friends. It's a 4mm thick chassis, and it does offer a little bit of extra tuning as well, and I'll explain when I'll show you in a moment. But yeah, Robbie bought me a little present, and we're going to be fitting that to the SSTE. So massive shout out to you all. I'm not going to keep bumping my guns by here because obviously I don't want to drag it out too long. Let's dive down. I'll adjust the camera and set it all up, and we can go from here. I'll see you in a sec. Right guys, so as you know, in the last video what we actually did is install the 7075 hubs on the rear. Previous to that was the 7075 hubs in the front. Cogan billet chassis braces, Cogan billet towers. I have got a servo saver that I'm going to be adding to the vehicle as well. We've got a Surpass Rocket V2, 4282 2150 kV motor, 40mm Surpass Rocket fan, and the Hobbywing Tenby 150 G2 ESC. So truck isn't standard. Oh, as you can see, it's obviously running the Cophead LPs version 2s. Now, one of the key things to this car is the chassis. Now, if you don't have these chassis braces, a big problem you're going to have is flexing, all right? Now, I added these. They are tried and tested. Many guys have tried them, and it really has stood the test of time. But the kind of, to take this one step further and completely fortify this, we're going to be adding a new chassis. Now, as you can see, this chassis has had its fair use, mind. I've sent it up a few jumps. And basically this car has been treated, well, long short, it has had a bit, not a hard life, but it's definitely been used, all right? Now, the good thing is about this is, as scouring through the internet, obviously looking for upgrades, one of the major ones that we come across, obviously, was this chassis, guys. Now, this is the part number, and I will put it up on the screen right for you now, is HOP0029. It's a full 7075 T6 aluminium chassis. It's made by, obviously, Hobao. As you can see, there's the part number there. Alright, so anyone going along. Now, the beauty of this, guys, and let me just take it out of the packaging for you, is the good thing is with this is it's actually got some additional tuning. Now, as you know, I've been battling with the wheels going up on the car on a regular basis. And what's happening with the vehicle is, as I'm accelerating, it doesn't, despite any tuning to the diffs or anything like that, is the car was then raising up and then causing me to wheelie. Now, yes, I am using basher tyres, but obviously I still want to be able to bash it and control it at the same time. Wheels up all the time is going to be great for backflips, but when I'm bashing about on the floor, want to race a few mates, that sort of thing, is a bit of a pain in the backside. One of the things that you can do with that is by shifting bias around the car. And the beauty of this chassis, as you can see, is this is where the battery tray would normally be. The car is actually initially set up with the weight bias towards the back. So what we're going to do here is actually shift the weight bias towards the front. And that should actually keep the front end from popping up a little bit more. Because bear in mind, the battery is quite heavy. So it's essentially like adding weight on the front of your vehicle. Now, if you were jumping, you might want a sort of more neutral position in the front. It may be coming towards the centre or just slightly off towards the rear. But this is the chassis, guys. As you can see, it really is a nice piece of machined aluminium. In all fairness, I think the cost of this here in the UK is around about 55 UK pounds. It might be a little bit more. I will need to check that for you. But the idea is now what we're going to do is transfer everything from the existing chassis, e.g. the car, and then onto this chassis here. In the meantime as well, what I am going to do is I'm going to be going through the differentials. Now the differentials on this car, I've never actually touched since building it. Now initially what we went with was 100 CST up the front. Sorry, no, I tell a lie. 60, 250 and 30 in the rear, I think it was. So what I'm actually thinking of doing, no, it was 100 actually, 100, 250 and 30. So what I'm thinking of actually doing to help with racing around in Tenby, we're actually going to go lighter on the centre diff and the front. Now the beauty of that was where I was worried before about the car popping its front end up. Obviously now we're shifting the bias towards the front of the vehicle. We should actually be okay. So that's a very, very good thing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start taking the car apart. I am going to put you on a time lapse, and as I'm going along, any parts I'll show you. I'll try and get some close-ups and show you what's what. But I want to say again, massive thank you to Robbie from Tenby for helping me get this video together and obviously providing me with a chassis. Guys, I'll put a link in the description and on Facebook if you want to go over and say hello to him. Really, really nice guy. And yeah, he knows his stuff with his abows as well. So, right, pause the video. Right guys, okay, so as you can see, I've got the rear part of the car taken off. Quite easy to do, 4 screws and then obviously the 2 screws for your chassis braces. While I'm here, okay, I'm going to check several things. Now as you can see, the diff actually looks, let me just spin it. Okay, all the teeth are really, really nice, no problems at all there. I am going to add a little bit more grease in there. Hinge pins, I might give them a little polish. They do look nice and clean, to be honest with you. When you consider, and there's one thing I want to mention, when you consider how hard I've been running this car and some of the places I've been running it, it's everything with these abows just tends to keep up. As you can see, the arms are quite scarred up, and you know I've been running in some quite rough conditions, racing it about. It's been up in the air a few times. But yeah, I just want to kind of make this all nice and neat and tidy. Might do a little bit of shock work. I think I am going to whip this diff out. Just check the diff oil, top it back up and do the hinge pins and go from there. But yeah, you know, big shout out to Hobao for the way they designed this car, because I haven't had any issues. I mean, it's just been good from start to finish. So yeah. Let's whip that out then. Let's check it all over, put it all back together, do the diffs and go from there. Right, okay, so as you can see, got the diff out, finish out. All the teeth are looking absolutely awesome, no issues there. What I'm going to do now is just whip this open. I'm going to give the bearings a little bit of a clean, give the inside the diff case a bit of a clean as well. Re-add some new grease, checked over obviously the input gear. All seems to be fine there as well. So that's good. And yeah, just give it a bit of a service now. All right, okay, so as you can see, as you can see, plenty of diff oil inside. No real issues. But what I am going to do is give it a bit of clean, because it is a little bit black at the moment. So I just want to keep it freshen. Oops, sorry, hiccup. Just want to freshen it all back up. And just give it all, get the car in a nice working order. Not that it wasn't. Just checking over the diff case. As you can see, there's no shavings, any metal or anything like that in there. Everything seems to be fine. Hinge pins weren't actually in a bad condition, so I'm okay with them. But I am going to give them a bit of a polish. And yeah. So I'm just going to empty this out, guys, top it back up with 30k and go from there. Right, okay, guys, all topped up, 30k, just going to sit there, let the bubbles come out of it. Quite important, obviously, let the diff oil settle before you obviously screw it back up, because there will be bubbles inside there. And obviously your differentials will feel a lot better when all those bubbles have risen to the top. Some people don't bother. Me personally, just like you would with your shocks, let the bubbles come out. I don't know whether you can pick that up on the camera. As you can see, there's a few in there. And yeah, so I'm going to go 30k on the rear, 60k on the front, and we'll probably go maybe 150 on the centre. But let's crack on with the rest of the parts now. Right, okay, remember guys, what you are going to need to do when you're re-adding your diff into your car, if you're looking, let's say this is from the rear of the vehicle, crown and input gear go towards the left hand side, and also make sure you add some grease on the crown and input gear. Just obviously something just if there's any newcomers to the hobby or anyone else who's just picked up one of these cars watching this video, yeah, crown and input gear, obviously, so the crown gear towards the left as you're looking at the back of the car, and also make sure you add some grease onto the crown and input gear. Guys, one of the things I like to do with my hinge pins, all right, as you can see, they're not really that bad this time around, is I do actually use some metal polish on there, right? You can use any brand you want, but what I'm going to do is add some on a rag, all right, and then going to actually put them in the chuck of my drill, and then give them a good spin and a polish at the same time. So that's what they look like now. We'll come back in a second and I'll show you what they look like. Right guys, so as you can see, that's the hinge pins all polished up, all nice. So they'll actually help with the movement of the suspension on the car. I would recommend you keeping these clean as you can, definitely. Because if you can imagine, let's say your arm, let's say your hinge pin is where my pan side bracelet is, that arm is relying on that hinge pin to be nice and clean along with the shock to give you your up and down movement. Now if these are all clogged up, dirty, rusted and in a hell of a state, obviously it's going to restrict that movement. Right, okay, let's crack on. Right, okay, so all the electrics and centre diff is all back in. I'm just about to take this out now. I'm going to tune that centre diff and put it back in. If you notice, I haven't put the drive shaft in yet because obviously the centre diff is coming out. I have Loctited all the screws underneath as well, so I'd recommend you do that, definitely, guys. Definitely, like, if it's metal to metal, Loctite it. One thing to mention, obviously, the easiest way I found, especially when you're happy with everything that you've got here, if you're doing this chassis swap, is literally just take all the screws out from the bottom. So as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then another 4, is it? Yeah, 4 then for the battery tray, which obviously holds the SE in place. You are going to need to re-stick down your power switch, but you know, you're 3/4 of the way here now. So guys, tune the centre diff, put the drive shaft back in, and then move on to removing the front end from the old chassis and any auxiliary parts that are on there. But yeah, coming together nicely now. We're starting to look like a car again, and this should be pretty much a beast from here onwards. Right guys, so that's been done for one night. As you can see, this is the original chassis. Remember we mentioned about the webbing? So obviously this one doesn't have any of it. All we got left now really is to transfer the front to the front of this part. I am going to take the centre diff out now though. Not today, but tomorrow I'm going to take the centre diff out. I'm going to put 100k, maybe 150 in the centre. And then the front diff over here, I'm going to take that out and then obviously top that up with 60. And yeah, it's coming together quite nicely. But I'm enjoying this, to be fair. Kept the drive shafts out, as you can see, they're all in good condition. We need to do the hinge pins as well. And then reconnect the steering and then put everything back in here. But so far, it's going absolutely amazing. Hope you're enjoying the video.
A few moments later.
Right, okay guys, so what I'm going to do now is, it is the day after. As you can see, got myself a nice cup of tea, sunlight and all that jazz. We're going to concentrate on doing the centre diff. I'm going to be using this 100k in the centre. I think I've done a bit of research. I think lightening up the centre diff will essentially allow the car to have a little bit more movement in corners. So what I'm aiming it for now is kind of dialing in the handling and stuff like that, just to kind of get the car to feel right. The centre diff, I want it a little bit lighter. Basically as well, what will happen by lightening up the centre diff from the 250 I already had in there will stop the front end coming up as much as it was. So I'm still trying to dial the car in a little bit more as well. Right, I'm going to put you back on time lapse. I'm going to enjoy my chocolate bar and my cup of tea and just chill out. Let's get the centre diff out and we'll go from there. I'll see you in a sec. So one thing to mention here, guys, when doing up obviously your differential, obviously your screws, what you're going to want to do here is make sure that you apply equal force amongst your screws. So you're going to do it in a star pattern. So let's say top left, bottom right, top right, bottom left, and do it up equally right around. Because what can actually happen here, okay, is you could, in theory, not have the spur gear sat on correctly, which is then going to cause pressure on your pinion gear. So two things. This could either give out, your pinion gear could either give out, and also the gears inside of your differential could actually give out. So yeah, just take your time, cross thread pattern, and do up the spur gear. If you get a little bit coming out the sides like diff oil like that, just give it a wipe after. But as you can see, now this bearing, despite the actual look there, I have checked it over. It's really, really silky smooth. I've got no issues with the bearing at all. It's moving really, really nice. So I was going to replace this, but I don't see the point. And I think, if I remember last time I did the differential on the car, I did actually change that bearing out anyway. So it's relatively new. But as for the rest of the car, yeah, coming across and coming along, I should say, very, very nicely. Yeah, let's do this up and go from there. Right, okay guys, so as you can see, centre diff is now back in, drive shaft's back in. We have put the 100k in the centre diff. One thing to mention here, guys, is definitely check your meshing. As you can see, it's quite tight in there, but doing it the way I've done it, your meshing should actually be correct. But it is a new chassis. I like to check stuff, so if you just listen. I don't know if you can pick up that click by there, guys. That's telling me that the mesh is absolutely spot on. So next up now, I've got to go back to work. So obviously I've done this on my dinner break. I've come back. I actually ate earlier on, so decided just to have a cup of tea. When I come back now, we're going to take the front end off the old chassis and then start offering up to the vehicle and also tuning the front diff. But yeah, she's coming along quite sprightly and lovely and beautiful. So yeah, quite happy with this. I am possibly going to be looking at some better servos soon. Not that these have given me any grief, but I want a little bit more speed and a little bit more power. Might possibly upgrade this one to a 35 kilogram soon, because this in here at the moment is actually a 30. Or maybe even look at one of the higher ends, something like, I don't know, AGF or something like that. Basically something to give it a little bit more steering at the front. Shock work. I don't think I'm going to do anything with the shocks for the moment. I'm going to run them as they are. Yeah, just basically get a feel for the vehicle and then tune the shocks from there. So I'm hoping all these little incremental changes, including this chassis, it's going to make it an absolute weapon. But yeah, I'll catch up with you later on, guys. I'm going to go back to work, and then tea time, I'm going to start cracking on with the car again. Right, guys, welcome back. Just got back from work now. Made myself another cup of tea. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to transfer the front of the car, obviously, onto the new chassis. What I will say, though, is I'm not going to keep you talking, that sort of thing. We'll put you on a time lapse. Essentially, the front is going to be the same as the back, all right? But I am going to do a little bit of diff work. As I mentioned, we're going to tune the front diff to 60k. Need to reconnect the steering, recalibrate the steering, obviously put the servo arm and everything back on. And then I believe we're pretty much done. Now, I'm on the fence whether to use the POS bumper on the front of it. I do quite like, especially when you're going to be racing around. As I say, I'm kind of getting the car ready for Heatherton. I think the bumper on the front, well, depending on a few of the boys driving anyway. Well, I say that, me. My driving, I might actually leave the bumper off for the moment, because the other thing to mention here, and I have noticed, especially with the POS stuff, is obviously you've got the extra thickness of the POS bumper, but with the milling that's in the chassis now, the screws are going to need to be longer for a start. Now, depending on, if you actually look at the bottom of the car, depending on how long these screws are, is dependent whether we reuse the bumper this time around. At some point I probably will have to buy some longer screws, but I think more than likely for now we're going to leave the bumper off, and then I'll have to go source some longer screws to put it back on. But yeah, time lapse, go forward, and I'll see you in a sec. Right guys, welcome back. So as promised, this is the final product now. So this truck pretty much I've gone as far as I can with. I'm really happy with the outcome. I want to say a massive thank you to Robbie Bain obviously for hooking me up with the chassis as well. Guys, it's literally had the kitchen sink chucked in. Other than, and I was talking to my friend Gareth on a video chat while I was working, other than the servo, I think possibly at some point I might upgrade to maybe something like an AGF or a Reefs or something decent for bashing with a bit more speed. There's not really a great deal I can do to this now. We've put it all in total. So we've obviously got the 7075 chassis, T6 aluminium, 4mm. So that's obviously what we've done here. Kogan billet braces, towers. We've got the T6 aluminium caster hubs, 6mm T6 7075 extenders from Hobao, rear hubs as well, T6 7075, phase 1 mud guards on there. I've also got the Rocket 4282 2150 kV motor running on the 19 tooth pinion, Hobby Wing quick run BL 150 G2. Really, I mean, if I was kind of serious wanting to take it out one step further, I could possibly go a max 8. But honestly guys, if you're not concerned about firmware upgrades, the BL 150 G2 is an absolutely awesome offering. As for tuning, what I've done in this video as well is the centre diff we're now running on 100k. The rear is now on 30 and the front is on 60. That should give me a little bit more turning. Obviously the centre diff was a little bit thicker, and obviously now that we've moved the battery tray forward, we should be able to dial out a little bit more of those wheelies. I'm going to watch and see how this runs, because there's a lot of torque from this motor. If I get any ballooning on the front, obviously we might have to dial up the centre diff fluid a little bit more, just to kind of flip it over. As you can see, all the screws in, everything's nice. It was a bit of a pain in the backside to put these chassis guards on, and obviously with the, as I call them, the bunny rabbit ears. Unfortunately, one thing I will advise you is if you're actually doing this and following along at home, I would definitely recommend you putting these on first, because as soon as you Loctited that motor mount in, it's going to make access to the screws, because they actually come from underneath the chassis. All in all, it's been a pleasure to work on once again. The truck, the diffs came out, and in all fairness, all the teeth, all the input gears, everything was immaculate. I've never needed to shim it, and it has been literally having his, excuse the expression, arse handed to it on a regular basis, this truck. It's definitely one of my favourites. It's obviously a keeper, and this is why I've taken this one as far as I have. With the help of many people, mind I will say that, obviously plenty of advice off the guys on Panside. Obviously Robbie and Tenby has helped out. We've obviously Lee Coogan, he's been absolutely amazing. Yeah, an awesome truck. I think what I'll do, guys, alright, obviously cutting the jibber jabber here, we will do some close-ups. I'll do some close-ups showing you that everything's on the vehicle. And I just want to say a massive thank you to each and everyone who are obviously watching all the channel, all the likes, shares and subscribes. We just did 2,100 subs literally in the space of no time. I was only just telling you, asking you for a call to action to get 2,000 subs. Guys, really humbled and feel blessed. Everyone has helped out with the channel. I want to say a massive thank you as well. Keep liking, keep subscribing and keep sharing. Obviously I will ask you to do that. It's quite important. We keep things growing. The community we got going is absolutely amazing. Right, close-up time. I'm going to leave you with the close-ups and a bit of music rather than ending the video as I normally do. Make sure you check the box at the end for more videos. Until next time, guys, stay awesome. Catch you later.
Ngana ay kauda asulte kauda ngana aba wasidenya mama ay ngana tai watiskinga day.